Cool. There we go.
Okay.
Good morning. Again. So yeah, like I had mentioned, one of my good friends had sent me a message yesterday, and I just wanted to share it as kind of like a little opening. It's really sweet. So she writes, advice from Maria Sabina, Mexican healer and poet. Heal yourself with the light of the sun and the rays of the moon, with the sound of the river and the waterfall, with the swaying of the sea and the fluttering of the birds. Heal yourself with mint, neem, and eucalyptus. Sweeten with lavender, rosemary, and chamomile. Hug yourself with a cocoa bean and a hint of cinnamon. Put love in tea instead of sugar and drink it looking at the stars. Heal yourself with the kisses that the wind gives you and the hugs of the rain. Stand strong with your bare feet on the ground and with everything that comes from it. Be smarter every day by listening to your intuition, looking at the world with your forehead. Jump, dance, sing so that you live happier. Heal yourself with beautiful love. And always remember, you are the medicine. So good.
So good.
And I feel like recently I have been trying some of these things, which is not foreign to me, but kind of rediscovering them.
Mm-hmm.
So dancing and singing, jumping even, has been very, very important in like my morning routines. It's like you put on, sometimes I put on music, sometimes I don't, but you just let everything kind of happen, right? It's the opposite of that that very strict kind of let's work out, let's do it, let's do a flow, let's do this. It's really just like embracing whatever vibe you feel, or sometimes it's a release,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super stoked because I love growing things. So this year I grew chamomile. I mean, you guys grow all the stuff all the time, but chamomile and mint. And I started to plan out next year's season. And I found myself again, like attracted to different teas, different roots, different herbs. And so I'm looking forward to that as well, because then you start it from seed and you grow it, and you harvest it. And then once the winter time comes and you're enjoying what you've done throughout the season and stuff like that. And it's interesting because you start planning now, and it's almost like a full year. That's when you're enjoying your harvest for that type of stuff, that type of like drying and herbs and stuff like that. So, and when I was reading this, I was like, stand strong with your bare feet on the ground. I was like, kind of reminds me of something I was doing in the summertime in the fields with Jess. We just kick off our shoes.
So fun.
So good.
That's awesome. With it being a yearly process, like you're saying, how you're just enjoying the teas now that you've seeded and planted the intention so long ago, it kind of gives you different perspective of time, right? Like it kind of feels like slower time because it's not this instantaneous world that we're living in. And I feel like farming's taught me that a lot. And just being in nature too.
Mhm.
Yeah, slow and slower timelines. Cool.
So good. It's so natural. It's very like primal almost, right? And it helps. I feel like it helps my type of character because I find that now that I'm starting to really connect to what's going on, I have like a very sensitive nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that a healer had showed me is that you want to do so much, your soul and your heart want to do so much, but your nervous system has a hard time sustaining that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
in order to achieve things, you have to really step back and say, okay, like this is what I want to do, but I need to do it in this type of rhythm
Mm-hmm.
rather than being like, because
For
I would
sure.
just be like, I can do this. I can do this. It's
Yeah.
great. It's like a squirrel, right? You're like, you're getting ready for winter. I can do this.
I know.
But at the end of the day, it's like so much stuff goes wrong.
Whoa. Chill. Yeah.
All right. I got
Yeah.
this.
I feel like I have been saying that to myself so frequently. Basically through the holidays and through December and stuff too. I felt myself consciously reminding myself, like, slow down and focus your energy in a bit more. Don't be, I could do this, I could do that. There's already a lot in motion, and the energy focused on those things will just help it and make it feel easier rather than trying to pull in these other things, or kind of dipping a toe here, dipping a toe there. I feel that.
And I like the concept because I was listening to a winter solstice meditation the other day, and I like the concept of even within the seasons, there's an appropriate time or energy to dip toes, right?
Yeah.
And then there's appropriate time and energy to, like you said, kind of just sit with whatever has already been activated and is already rolling, and just kind of nurture that one or two things. And I feel like you guys have talked about this before, where it's like at the end of the season, you guys have given so much throughout the season that like you're really in bear hibernation mode.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the winter time, you're just like, but for me, it sounds so healthy. Like it sounds appropriate, right? You give her with when the energy is very high and the sun's, at its most throughout the day. And then as everything settles, you kind of slowly come back down and reroute and rest. It's very important.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like contagious when the sun is shining so brightly and it's bright very early in the day. You just want to get up and you're not getting out of bed all cold. You're ready to just be up and be out. Whereas days like today, it's a little chilly and want to have a blanket wrapped around you and a tea. And yeah, you need all of it. Well, at least I feel like I need all of it. I enjoy having all of it for sure. Yeah. I do wonder sometimes what it would be like to live in countries where there isn't winter, where they still have rainy seasons and stuff, where it would still, nothing's ever fully blooming all the time, but it would be interesting to be in a area like that. where yeah, I don't know, I just think about it sometimes.
Well, one of my best friends, she settled into Ecuador. And when I went to go visit her, I understood that, because like you said, there's a rainy season and a dry season. And how does a Canadian, who's used to the all four seasons, go there and can adapt, like, and I think it has to do with like the way she lives there. It's she has her own piece of land, she built her house from scratch. Like there's still that rhythm, and maybe it's not like divided into four, but there's still that rhythm of, when it's dry season, you kind of do these things, and when it's rainy season, you kind of do these things. And it kind of is cyclical like that. So I feel like I think everywhere on the earth would have some sort of cyclical thing, right? So that your body can go into different cycles and not just sustain at the one level. Which actually is interesting to think of, like a very populated city, like a high energy city. So like Toronto or New York, where there's seasons, but really it probably doesn't feel like it's cyclical to them, because they're always just like go, 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 and consuming and creating, and even just the thought of it like overwhelms me. I'm like, I'm so not a big city girl.
And to some degree it is a mindset too, of slowing down and ramping up and allowing the body to fall in, or I guess move in those rhythms. Because even in a small town that's slow in the winter, you can still find people who are moving at a fast pace. And even the last chat we had, I felt we had this offer that came to us, and it kind of ramped us up to be in more of like we got to make a decision mode, and we were in more of a higher pace than we were used to for holidays. And we kept looking at each other being like, I just want to like sit around and watch the Christmas movies and chill, and we attracted that. It was our own doing. So just reshifting, realigning. And I do feel the excitement for the farm ramping up though as the new year comes, even though it is still cold. There's jobs that we were way too tired in the fall to even attempt, that now with the freshness of the new year, it feels, we can go for 3 hours, go roll up some tarps or roll out some tarps or move some sandbags, like whatever. A lot of cleanup jobs that kind of get left behind in the fall just from being tired and, like you said, just wanting to hibernate. It's interesting though. Each year is definitely different too. One of the things I listened to this podcast yesterday, and this lady, her name's Mary Ducina, and she's an astrologer and a mystic and a seer. And anyway, she was talking a lot about the astrology of 2022, and I'm not very familiar with astrology, but it was really interesting to just watch her, or to listen to her talk, and the way she channeled stuff through her so effortlessly, and the messages that were coming through. But she was talking about kind of the first half of 2022 and the cycles that are coming within that. And her message for January was do the work. And then once we get into February and like Pisces area, there'll be gifts that present themselves. And then coming into spring, that's where things are really going to ramp up as far as like the manifestations and what you're attracting to you and stuff. And so it kind of made me think about just the seasons as well, because January does feel like a time to do the work, you know, like you're indoors a lot, you have a lot of quiet downtime to do the work internally and externally too, I guess. That's what we're feeling on the farm, at least. Kind of these odd jobs that don't seem important when you're, yeah, they don't always seem important, but they're very important in their own way. It's just about the timing of them, I guess. And so, yeah. And then, so, yeah, when things ramp up in the spring, that's exactly like the farm and nature, right? Everything starts getting that momentum, like things are starting to bloom, the early bloomers are going, you know, like you just feel that pace. So anyways, it was a cool podcast, and if you're interested, I'll send it to you, because I wrote like 3 pages of notes from it. It was really cool.
Nice.
It was really cool. Yeah. Yeah. It's from the Enlighten Up podcast too. I want to mention that.
Enlighten up.
Enlighten Up
Enlighten
podcast.
up.
Yeah. It's been I've been listening to that one a lot, and then the other one is called Expand with Elizabeth April. That's another one I've been listening to, and yeah, I feel like I found them at the right time, you know, like I don't feel I'm a subscriber to one particular podcast, but these two have been good for, I feel like, at the right time for me right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's giving you the right message, the right clarity in certain things.
Bits and pieces.
And I feel the same about the gift that you sent me.
Cool.
I agree. I find them very magical. I find them to be kind of an opening. It's something inviting me to explore that, which is like, I'm super curious and I love it because it's kind of playful a little bit, but at the same time it encourages me as a daily practice. And as everybody knows, when you continue to practice something, that gift or that talent becomes stronger. And pardon me, I'm starting to ask very specific questions, right? And I'm starting to really go inwardly and be like, okay, well, this is what this card means in the book, but when I saw it, when I drew it, what intuition, what impression did I get? And I'm really trying to open that up, because again, it's like, you can take things that you learn from your podcast, or that you learn from even like when you're on your mat and you're still or you're flowing, and then bring it into your everyday, and it just it feels like it enhances your regular day. And I'm all about trying to really brighten up everywhere I go. And I think that it's kind of working, right? And I think that the cards are helping to sustain that mindset, right? It gives me motivation to align and to keep that mindset going. So just want to throw in a little gratitude for thinking of me. Super great.
It's almost like the way you just explained it there to me, it was like a visual of like an extension of your arm, almost like the cards are almost like an extension of you and what you're because I'll leave it at that. It was an visual. No more words. Do you want to do what's in your cup?
What's in my cup? Yeah, I do. So firstly, I'd like to thank one of my mom's friends. She had gifted me a set of teacups, and I love the feel of it. I love the looks of it. I love everything about this type of ritual, right?
Yeah.
So just want to throw a shout out. Thank you, Chris. You're
Thanks,
awesome. I use teacups all the time. So today is kind of a brew that I had steeped in the crock pot overnight. I am trying to use some of the dried herbs that I had prior, but I'm also using roots. So I did an abundance of ginger, turmeric, and lemongrass. And then I threw in some homegrown milk thistle. So I just threw in the heads to kind of help support my liver. And I also put in a little bit of burdock root. So again, thinking of that blood cleansing, rooting down in the winter time, warming spices. And every now and again, I'll take the brew, and if I'm going to be using it for the night, I'll take this as a base and I'll add my valerian root, because I'm finding that the valerian root is really helping my nervous system. And it's not that I need a sleep aid, but I feel like it's just a complement to my physiological, if that's a word.
I gotcha.
The way I work.
Yeah, into your practice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So do you find with the roots, doing the overnight crock pot steep, that helps like loosen up the roots, as opposed to, like, we have some echinacea root and Jacoby's made a tea, but on the stove top, kind of boiling it. And then he was like, I don't think you could just put pieces of it in like your tea ball and then pour water over. Like, he kind of thought it would need a longer term, or like a longer cooking or steeping. Do you find that with the roots? Like, you like to have a longer, because they're so tough, it's not like a delicate herb. It's like they're a solid root. So giving it that extra time to simmer and soften.
And I also find that, yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly, but I also find that it also depends on the root. So like my ginger and turmeric, it's basically like a fresh root.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable throwing those in my tea ball, probably grating them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, I had harvested some burdock root and dried it, and like my dried thistle, instead of trying to make it into a powder and trying to create more of a surface space for the water to seep in.
Yeah.
I'll do it overnight. And if there's something that I want to add, like if I want to add my nettle, I'll add that as a regular steep to the base.
Cool.
But yeah, I agree. I feel like there are certain herbs that, in order to take out the medicinal properties, I think you were talking about the chaga is kind of similar to that, right? It's a little bit of a process. It needs that time to kind of really marry into the water, but gently. You don't want to just throw it on the stove and boil it away for an hour. I like to, turn the heat up and then turn it down. And it reminds me of when you guys were talking about how there's always a veggie stock on your stove in the winter.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the concept that I like to have with these types of teas, is that I can just put it on a low setting in the crock pot, and then throughout the day it's ready and it's warm. And if I'm having any discomfort after a meal or something like that, like I don't have to worry about making the tea or finding time to make the tea. It's already there ready for me, already there, ready to heal, ready to help. Like a
Mhm.
like a friend that's always hanging out, being like, I'm ready. Whenever you need me, I'm just right here, staying warm.
It's warm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so gentle.
It's just I think I started to dive into the whole herbal and tea combinations last year. And yeah, some of them are like super gentle and super like healing, and others are like, all right, put this in your drink in the morning, and let's like give her, right? Like it gives you energy, it gives you your electrolytes, it replenishes. So I find that that's also important, right? It's, for me, it's not really just about the flavor, it's about the purpose. It's like, okay, what do I need today? What do I need right now? What do you need right now? What are you sipping on?
I did a tea ball this morning, and I have bee balm and peppermint in it. And they're definitely go-tos for me in the winter and
Okay.
and today, because they both feel really nice on the throat. And yeah, keeping the throat chakra open, and it's really nice. It makes the mouth feel nice, the throat, like down the esophagus, and I don't know, it just feels really good in the body. I like them, and I like the combination of the two together too. Yeah, I mean, I'll eat bee balm like in the field as I'm walking by, just chew on it. I love the taste of it. It's kind of like oregano, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. And we just recently found it because we have a tote full of our dried goods from the season, and we had a few out that we were rotating through in the kitchen, and then the totes down in the basement. And we went and looked through there, and we're like, oh my god, bee balm! Like, I was so excited to see it.
Long lost friend, where have you been all these months?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're hanging out in the cup today. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I like it.
It feels like a little bit of an energetic tea as well, like a little bit of a stimuli.
It's definitely not calming, I would say, but I don't feel yeah, I guess. It's always nice on the like for breathing and how that whole system feels. It feels good for that. So I guess if you're breathing a little lighter, or I don't know, yeah. It's definitely not like a chamomile where I'm snoozing.
There's always a time and a place for good old chamomile. I hear ya. I hear ya.
Yeah. I gotta be strategic with my chamomile, because there's like this sweet spot where I can drink it and go to the washroom before I go to bed, so then I don't wake up during the night. But but then if you drink it too early, then you're falling asleep really early. So try and be strategic with my chamomile. This one's like an everyday go-to for me. Like if I'm like, oh, I just want to make a tea, it's like peppermint's always the base of it, and then a couple extras here and there. But I love the ginger and lemongrass combination. Those two, they're just so fragrant, and I love the color too it gives, like be like a light yellow. Nice colors.
I get them from you. I get like you're very, I don't want to, kind of attracted to that bright yellow
Yeah, for sure.
shine.
I just switched my sheets before the new year. I had kind of darker sheets on, and then we had some visitors stay, and I had light sheets on the bed. And so instead of switching back to my darker ones, I left these ones, and they're like yellow and like really bright and nice mandala patterns on it and stuff. And now, yeah, I feel a strong connection to yellow for sure.
Well, I think also like on your blog, you chose to do the sunflowers.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember your hat throughout the summer, the sunflower hat.
Yeah. My I don't know if my camera's being is it on your end too? It's kind of making some crazy, yeah.
It's making really magic, man. Like,
yeah.
Whoa, some energy going over there.
Yeah, we got greens and purples going on too. I realized last chat too, we never followed up on, remember the rippling circles of light, where it started here and then was rippling inward. That was from the first chat. And anyways, so right after we had the first chat, I wrote that down because like I was like, I want to follow up with this, and I just forgot to mention it last time, but I do want to bring it up because it was a cool, so the idea that came to me was like add another dimension of view to it, right? So I was always seeing it as like this way, right? Like just rippling inward.
Okay.
As circles.
Okay.
And then when this add another dimension of view, it became, instead of these 2-dimensional circles, it became a 3-dimensional, what's the word? Like a cone, I guess. So instead of it just being a circle like here,
yeah,
it's like a cone coming inward to my third eye, like this, like coming inward, if that makes sense, like from expanding to inward. Okay, I drew a little picture. It's very juvenile, but
everybody loves visuals.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there it is.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's my follow-up with it. It's like, I'm not just watching something as if it were on a screen, like circles. It's like information, it's like a radiation almost, like energy coming into the, yeah.
Which is curious because I would assume that information usually would come from a cone up on your crown.
Yeah.
But it seems to be focusing on your intuition.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think for this one, because it's like exercises to open the third eye, so this one would kind of center on that. But you're right, like when you're sending out information, it's coming out of the crown.
Yeah.
And receiving too. But yeah, it's like an antenna. But this one I felt was more like an exercise to work on the third eye, particularly. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to follow up with that, bring that full circle.
I've been trying to create I guess different shapes as well with regards to like aligning things. And I find I still use the practice that you had mentioned in the summertime about it was like three exercises, and you try to do it all at the same time. So you're rooting, you're opening, but then there's the circle of flames that you're letting go.
Yeah.
I find that to be very very empowering, very it works basically. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But another thing that I find is important for me as kind of like a reset is literally like a line. So again, as I'm trying to explore, and I don't know why my throat's all groggy today. I'm trying to explore, like, okay, if I get a interesting thought or a sensation or an emotion, and I'm trying to work it through, I do the line through all of the chakras, and I just make sure that they're all active but not overactive. And again, it's that practice, and it just kind of brings you down, brings you back. But I've yet to target one chakra, like one aspect. Like you said, you were doing the third eye, and I'm just like, how do you kind of help yourself determine where you need to focus on, like where you need the work?
Well, okay, this is something I'd written down that I kind of wanted to talk about anyway.
I swear this wasn't planned. We just kind of happened.
So this idea has been coming to me lately about, I'll just read. Your ability to perceive it makes it real. And so I keep repeating this to myself in my head, where if you're in your flow and in alignment and feeling good, then you're not, are you thinking about what work needs to be done? Are you thinking about which chakra is underactive, or are you just flowing? And this has definitely been a common theme with me over time, is this belief of I gotta heal more, or I gotta do more, or something's not aligned, so I need to do this to align and heal. Whereas this idea was like, well, if you think you have to heal, then that means your reality is you're not healed.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's, as far as like the individual chakras go, I don't know, maybe sometimes when you're in your flow and you're feeling good, they're all just operating at whatever frequency feels good to them, right? They're just moving at whatever flow they need to be. That being said, I can feel physically when something is off. Like you said, you then envision yourself like a line, right? Like bring it back in, recenter it, or reground yourself, or whatever you need to do to visualize it. But from a daily basis, just like waking hours, and for the most part, this is what I've been focusing my attention on, is, or maybe not focusing my attention, maybe that's what it's been more, is almost like creating, again, the egg you said, or like the aura bubble. That's been a big visual for me lately, is kind of cutting off any, I just learned this concept yesterday, was like tentacles, you know, like tentacles kind of coming out of your aura, like gripping onto different things. It's like, cut those off, like create this like smooth and strong egg or aura.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I can feel these tentacles latching onto things and ideas. And so I visualize then this like like I don't know, cutting it off and like letting myself move past it, I guess. Not latching onto it, you know, not like, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep bringing that forward with me, you know, like grab that. It's like, and it sounds all great when I'm talking about it right now, but it is a practice. It's like every, you know, every day's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm fascinated with like, so you think about animals, right? I was observing my grandparents' dog over Christmas. So we're all in the same room, right? You know, my whole family's in the same room. The dog's there, grandparents, parents, us, you know, but everybody is experiencing a completely different reality, even though we're in the exact same space, same time. And then I've thought about the dog, and it's like she's fully aware just as everybody else is, right? But she's not choosing to latch. Is it like, it's not even in her judge, it's not even in her wheelhouse. It's like she's not thinking about judgment, she's not thinking about what she's saying, she's not thinking about any of those things, right? Even though she can feel those energies, right? Maybe they're happening around her, but, or maybe she doesn't even feel them. I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm babbling a bit here, but you know what I, like, if it's not, if you don't even perceive it, then it's not real. Like, it's not active in your vibration.
Mhm.
So yeah. And what you do perceive is active in your vibration.
I guess I wouldn't say it's kind of like a worry, because I feel like if you're trying to, cut off whatever you're latching onto, do you try to first walk yourself through the process? Because what I try to discover is it suppression? Am I cutting it off without actually dealing with why did I latch onto that and going through the cycle of release? Because in my opinion, that, and when you use the word cheating again, like, you're not necessarily learning from the whole aspect. And I like the concept of the animal, because I feel like, yeah, they wouldn't necessarily have maybe the mindset or the consciousness to latch on to something, because all they are is they are what they are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that funny little human twist that we like to throw into our lives. So I guess the question for you would be, like, when you're sensing these, and like, awareness is always that first step, right? You're like, oh, I'm starting to go in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Would you find that, like, as you're cutting it off, you're trying to go through the process of releasing? Or is it before you cut off, you have to almost like take it in, understand it, and cutting off and releasing kind of at the same moment, so that it hopefully doesn't come back, or it doesn't stick anywhere in your body?
Yeah. So when I was explaining the cutting off, it's old patterns for me. And so it's stuff that's replaying and replaying and replaying and replaying, and has been replaying forever. And it's, my release is the cutting off of it and the letting go of it. However, I do have downloads or teachings that come to me where I go, oh, that's what that was, where I process it and then say, okay, how do I let this go, or that. But when I was explaining that, that's more just like old stuff and like old patterns and ruts that I can find, my mind can kind of wander down, and kind of like, it's kind of like it's like really old baggage that I've been carrying around forever, and it's like I'll consciously drop it, and then I'll like all of a sudden recognize, I'm like, oh, I've picked the bag back up,
Okay.
And so it's like, just drop the bag. And that was another visual that I got from one of these the Enlighten Up podcast, was dropping the rope. So she was like, anytime it's like an old pattern, or like even if it's a particular person that you have some sort of I don't know, like distortion with, you just visualize dropping a rope. And so this one's been really big for me, is like, anytime I end up down the same pathway, it's like, drop the rope, just like drop it. Like, don't even, because I've spent so much time processing it all, right? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I doing this? What is this stemming from? It's like, it's not even about that anymore for me. It's like, just get rid of it, like, don't even, because the more I process it and think. It's just kind of overthinking, and it's kind of the same stuff. And it's,
Redundancy.
yeah, it ends up, it's always different stories that my mind will make up, but it's always rooted in the same kind of like low vibe, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like not even letting the momentum take flight, you know, just like cutting it off right from the start, just like, and so that's where this thing, this ability to perceive it makes it real came from, where I was like, I'm curious if at one point I won't even have to process cutting it off or even visualize it. It just won't even happen, you know? And I guess it's like releasing the idea of it more and more too, not holding to what the idea of it is. It's like just flowing through it, and being in my most optimal state will allow me to be in that frequency of not even like attracting those things to me anymore, not picking up that bag anymore. It's like it just doesn't exist.
Nice.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well, you're already experiencing the fruit of your labor on that, right? So again,
in
that's
small
very
doses.
encouraging. Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's glimpses, and then other people show me too in different ways too, or different circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
It's very encouraging. It's very motivating when I listen to how it's kind of working for you, like even in small doses or whatever, because it's because I trust you, because I believe you, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, now I can just add another little layer to what I've been doing, and I feel like everybody's going to have a different path.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we're all kind of reaching for that same destination, right? Like that same, like, just peace and ease and love, and
Yeah.
like supporting each other and making everything kind of work at a sustainable pace and sustainable energy level. And
Yeah.
it's I feel like it's happening, and I feel like sometimes even because my job, I work kind of in the public, right? So I do get to interact with a lot of different people, and just looking back, because I've almost been there a year, just looking back and being like, the people who have been interacting with me over the year, it is kind of like a mirror of your own work as well, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm perceiving my life in a certain vibration, and I'm trying to, attain certain things, and the people that are coming and visiting and actually like talking to me, right? Like actually feeling it is a reflection of, I feel it's a reflection of where I'm at, and the law of attraction, all that good stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But there is also times where, and I was just learning about this, is where you interact with people, and people are at a little bit lower and you're up here, but you still there's still something that you want to connect with them at another level. So you'll bring yourself down to be able to connect with them, and then you slowly, as you're talking, you slowly try to push their vibration up, not forcefully, but that helping hand that's like, but I find sometimes, because I'm still learning this practice, I'll push them up too fast, and I'll be up here, and they'll be like, oh, I can't reach you, that's too much. And I'm like, right, okay. So it's interesting what you practice, because I know you guys are not really doing a lot of public stuff right now because the season's over, but I'd be curious to know if, like, when you guys were at the market and stuff like that, as the season went on and as you did your healing and as you worked on different things, did you come across different type of energies with regards to your customers?
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have a couple. Yeah. Okay. The first thing I want to say is like it's always accessible anywhere, right? So if you're whatever you're seeking, you can find in anybody, even if they may be operating at a lower vibe. It's like their multi-dimensional self or like their higher self is always accessible. And so your ability to perceive it makes it real. So if you can see each person as equal on an equal playing field, then they will show it back to you. So if you're seeking, like you said, you like having chats and connections with people, right? When you're interacting with them at the store, it's like everybody that you interact with can meet you at that level if you have the ability to see it in them. But if you see them at a lower frequency, then that's what's going to be mirrored back at you, right?
Okay.
So here are a couple stories to kind of this one market. I might have told you about this guy, but I'll tell the story anyway. He came into the market stand with his wife and they had like 7 or 8 kids with them, and he just like it was like he danced into our stall. Like he was so whimsical. He just brought this big aura and it was very magical. And then all these kids, and they were so well behaved, and his wife was just like super sweet, and this little lady, and I just this whole vibe they brought to the stand, and I just was like, oh my god, like I was just like mesmerized by the magic. Like it was beautiful. So yeah, like yeah, that was one experience. And then another one that happened this past season was this guy came in, and he was another farmer, like, you know, in his maybe like early 60s or something. And you know, he starts and we're talking about sweet potatoes and the crop and whatnot, and then he gets going into like well, like, what's the biggest sweet potato you've ever grown? And then he gets into like, well, what's the longest sweet potato you've ever grown? And then he's like, you want to know the one I grew? And then he's got photos on his phone, and me and Jacoby are like, oh my god, get out of here, man, like get out of here. So like I know what you mean, where you have like, but it's almost like comical because you're just like, oh my god, like who are you and how did I attract this into my life? So yeah, totally always reflected at the market. And it is, I definitely find the days that I'm like putting out a certain vibe, it is reflected in that. And then there were other days where I really needed a boost, and I was feeling kind of low, and then I felt like there was a lot of embrace and love support for me. So yeah, it's always kind of there for you, whatever you want. But I find like what you were saying with when you're trying to connect with somebody and you feel like you're on different pages is like, I find it hard with family because you have such ingrained ideas of who you think they are, right? Like you're like, well, I know you, you know, you're my family member. It's like, I know who you are. I know what you're about. I know your strengths. I know your weaknesses. I know what will push you if I say this, right? Like those things are that I find is one of the hardest ones to release and not and be able to see eye to eye on things, you know. Whereas like when it's strangers at the market or like in that setting or at work, right, it's like you kind of have a different dynamic, right? It's like a seller and a buyer, or you know, like that sort of setting. It's a little lighter. With family, it can feel a little like you're clinging to each role a little too much sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But one thing that's been working for me decently well is like envisioning each family member as like an actor, you know, like in a play or something, like a performer.
Okay.
And so kind of it adds a little space in between it, just being like, we're each just playing our own role here, you know? And what do you want your role to be like? What do you want to create? Actually, and I just want to tie this in too. So the lady yesterday, Mary Ducina, she said, you are no longer just the actor and the writer, you are the director. So you decide what stays and what goes.
That's empowering.
Yeah, yeah. And she said, what are you replaying? Are you replaying the movie, or are you making cuts and deciding what you want and what you don't want and getting rid of stuff you don't need, and that type of stuff.
I think sometimes it can be a little intimidating to step into that role, right? To really believe and really take ownership of the sense that, like, no, like you said, I'm no longer just an actor, or just, I'm directing my life. I'm directing what comes and what goes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I feel like it's a practice, right? It's
Yeah.
something that personally, I don't think I was really encouraged to step into. It was definitely like, okay, here are some rules. Here are some routines. Here's some traditions. Here's what we do. But it's only, I feel like it was only, since probably, well, maybe it's come and gone, but definitely since my return home, it's been like more of like a priority almost, right? Like I'm determined to create all these things that I've written about and I'm sensing. And it's tough because you have to work through some nurtured things, not, and maybe not just family dynamic, but like society in general, and like regulations and government. And it's really uplifting to think of and to feel like, okay, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I want to be, and then just go with it, and not allow like doubt to come in with that. And
yeah,
and I like that, and I feel like I'm gonna do something with that word, like be the director.
yeah,
Because I think as I was healing, I was stepping into the observer mode.
yeah.
Right. And
Sure.
I think that's probably natural for inner reflection and inner all that good jazz. But this just popped into my mind. I had a really great woman in my life for a short period of time as a boss. And I remember her saying, like, one day you're gonna wake up and you're just gonna move mountains. And I'm like, oh, that's really nice for you to say, like, awesome, thanks, blah, blah, blah. But like just talking to you right now, it popped back into my head, and I'm just like, I love mountains, so of course. But it's like, yeah, like everybody can just direct what they want. And I hope that they'll choose, the more loving, the more positive, the more peaceful path. That would be really sweet. I mean, teach their own. But yeah, I feel like let's step into this. And it's not like feminine, masculine, like it doesn't matter. It's just more of just like when you're directing it, when you're owning it, when you're authentic, it's like everything else aligns and you're just like, cool. Life makes sense.
Yeah. And I had a message that came to me the other day that was like, there's no right way to go about this. Like, there's no right way to do it, right? Which also means there's no wrong way either. There's just the way that you're doing it. And everything will...
So simple.
Yeah, I know. Back.
Shit. That's so interesting. Because we're always taught that, like, got to go this way and got to do that way, or you fail or you pass, or you just like, there's so much like, I just want to go straight, guys. Just Just let me do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No right or wrong way. Just doing it.
C'est déjà fait. Like it's
Just
just go for it. Just go for it. It's already there.
okay.
It's already happening. You just have to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. And a little like quote that came to my mind on New Year's Day, but like it was like New Year's Eve, but it was the next day. It was called A New Baseline. And so if you think about when you're going through your cycles, right? And sometimes you feel like you're in a lower part of your cycle and you're kind of like, oh, like all this work I'm doing, it's not working, you know, like when you're kind of at your baseline or like your kind of lower frequency, it's like that has been raised up a bit now. So you're not cycling as low now.
Yep.
And you can cycle a bit higher and you'll still cycle, right? Like you're always cycling, but it's like your baseline's a bit higher now.
I totally feel that.
Yeah.
And it's not ego,
you
know, it's not like, oh, I'm getting up there. It's more just like, sweet. Like,
yeah, it feels so good.
It's so good. And it just, you can give so much more too, right? Like
and to yourself too, like receive more. That's been a big one for me. Like allowing myself to, here I go with the throat. Yeah.
You're not the only one. That's awesome.
Get them open.
You need to start singing.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Love it. Thanks, Justine.
Thank you in return. I feel like that was it's a nice little wrap up.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good to be
Good
back.
flow. Yeah. It's good to be back.
Awesome. Okay. Alors, à la prochaine.
À la